Now, this book I like to consider
my hidden gem.
of all fantasy books. Hello, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay, that was like really aggressive. I'm so sorry. I was on TikTok and I was looking for fantasy romance book recommendations, and everything that pops up on TikTok these days is acotar.
Or Fourth Wing.
I feel like as much as we all obviously love those books, I'm kind of getting sick of those being the only books that are recommended. So when it came time to film a video this week, I was like, what can I film?
Oh, I know.
I'm going to give you guys some recommendations that are great fantasy romance books and are not acotar or fourth wing. Now, quickly before we get into the video, I just want to make sure, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, guys. I upload weekly and I also upload to TikTok daily. If you want to check out the link, it is under the same username. Okay, first up on the list is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now, I will say this book has probably been recommended a few times. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. If you haven't, then here you go.
She's beautiful. She's gorgeous.
This series actually holds a super deep part of my heart, guys. Most people, when they got back into reading more recently within the last, 5 years or so, I feel like they picked up acotar, and that's the series that got them into reading. For me, it was this book. This series is not yet completed. However, I think the last and final one is coming out in April or May, I believe. It's a 5-book series, I think. Don't
Come for me if I'm wrong. I think it's 5 books.
but they're very addicting to read, and the world building is so good. If you like vampires and werewolves, this is a great book for that. So, From Blood and Ash is about a girl named Poppy. She's a young woman who is chosen to be a maiden, and she is bound by super strict rules. She's kept hidden away from the world. But everything changes when she meets her new personal guard, Hawk. He basically challenges her beliefs and everything that she's ever known about her kingdom and basically flips her world up on its axis. There is love, there's enemies to lovers, there's tension, there's yearning. Honestly, the world building in this is just really good. It was super fast to read. I wouldn't say it's high fantasy, but it's definitely a lot more complex than a book like acotar, in my opinion. I think so. This is one of my like all-time favorite series. Also, I love Poppy. She's honestly such a badass. Oh, and one more thing before I finish. I also love that JLA writes female heroines that are not like,
Super tiny and super skinny.
not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, we stan our skinny tiny girl Violet. We love her. But sometimes it's nice to get other kinds of representation as well. So yeah, definitely check this out. Going along the same lines with the same author and same series, but sort of the prequel, we have A Shadow in the Ember. Now, this series does happen before From Blood and Ash. I do think that you can read it before the other series, but it doesn't really matter like which order you read in. This series is 4 books, I believe, and it is completed. However, I do think that the final couple books, maybe it is better to read From Blood and Ash first.
Honestly, I don't know.
I personally did From Blood and Ash first before I did this one. However, these ones kind of came out in the middle of From Blood and Ash, so I kind of flip-flopped back and forth. I'm sure there's like a reading guide online if you guys wanted to like get super detailed with it. But basically, this book follows Seraphina, and this is happening like way before Poppy's time. Like, she's not even like a thought to be had yet. And Seraphina is a princess, but she's been also growing up in this kingdom that is super strict, and she has been training her whole life to basically seduce and kill this primal god of death that once she does this, it's gonna like fix the land that has been plagued by them, essentially.
I feel like I'm not very good at giving descriptions of books, guys.
You're gonna have to just trust me on it. It's really good. Sometimes I even like to think that this book is better than From Blood and Ash, but I don't know. I kind of flip-flop between the two. They're both really good. I love the way JLA writes. She's amazing. The world building again is so good. It's the same world. But yeah, Daddy Niktos, all the way. Okay, next on the list, I might get some flack for this, guys, but Zodiac Academy. Now, listen, people either love or they hate this series, and I am one of the people that devoured
This.
series. If you are like me and you like to read books for a fun time and just for the vibes, then this book is definitely for you. I don't take reading that seriously. Like, it is not that deep for me. When I read a book, I will give it 5 stars willy-nilly if I had fun while reading it, if I enjoyed myself, and just if I could see myself recommending the series to somebody else. I will say the first book, in the nicest way possible, is
Kind of a shit show.
but the series starts to get really, really, really juicy on the second and third book. So if you're reading this first one and you're like, I don't know how I feel about it, like it wasn't terrible, but it was kind of cheesy, the writing was kind of cringy. Trust me, just stick it out, get to the second and third book, and I promise you from there on, it's gonna like soar so fast. There are so many books in this series. I think there's like 9 in this series and like 5 or 6 in the prequel series, and I think there's also a series after it that all takes place just in the same world. There's overlapping characters from that series to this series. It's a whole like SJM universe type situation, guys, and you will not be disappointed. I think these books like consumed my mind for like 4 months straight. Like they were all that I was reading for 4 months. I'm not even kidding. So if you're looking for something that's like super binge worthy and you want to like put your heart and soul into it and you're gonna be like emotionally wrecked and it's just like the biggest roller coaster ever and you're like,
Do I want to get off? Do I want to stay on? I don't know.
this is the series. Basically, it follows 2 girls, Tori and Darcy. They are twins and they grew up in the mortal realm until they're 18 years old, and then essentially their magic has like blossomed or come of age, I guess you could say. I don't know. And they basically find out that they're fae. And what's unique about this series is that it is, while they are fae characters, everything in this world revolves around the zodiac. So if you're into astrology, huge. I just like that it was different than most fae books. You know, there's like Seelie and Unseelie fae, and a lot of series like to follow that like traditional look of fae, especially with like pointed ears and whatnot. But you know, they're very human like. It's just the zodiac rules their lives and it helps determine, you know, their fates and whatnot. But it's really good. You've got a bunch of different tropes because both Darcy and Tori have POVs in this and they both have separate lives that they're living. And you've got different romance tropes with, you know, Darcy's love interest and Tori's love interests. I don't want to spoil too much. Yeah, there's something for everyone in these books, which I think is super, super important. So, highly recommend. Next on the list is a series that I just recently picked up, and it is so good and super underrated. It is The Lies of Lena. This is a newer author and a newer series. Right now there's only 2 books out. There's The Lies of Lena and The Sins of Silas. I think there's going to be more. She's currently writing. I don't know how many. I can't say if it's a trilogy or maybe more. I don't really remember what she said, but this series, guys, is super good. I rated this first book a 4 stars, but I liked it enough that I was like, I'm gonna pick up the second one and see, you know, if I can get into the second one. And boy, oh boy, am I glad that I did that. The second one is even better than this first one. It's not to say that this book was bad. It was really good. It was just a little bit slower in the beginning. It took me a while to get into it, but once it picked up, that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is good. This is juicy. Basically, this series follows a girl named Lena and her mother. They are mages and they are living in this world where mages are ostracized. They're basically not allowed to exist in this world. They're having to live their life in secret and keep hidden identities until Lena meets this boy named Quill who works in the guard.
It's always the guards, let me tell you.
Basically, she meets this guard and essentially falls in love with him. However, she's keeping secrets from him. He's keeping secrets from her. We don't know what's what. And yeah, it's really, really good. There's a little bit of like a love triangle-esque in it if you're into that, but it's not so much that if you don't like love triangles, I wouldn't worry about it. Definitely a hidden gem and very, very good. Next on the list is A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. I feel like a lot of people are just now starting to pick this series up. I love that when I found it, it was brand new. It had just come out, maybe had like 200 or 300 reviews on Goodreads. And I was like, whoa, like this is definitely a new book. But I think it's becoming a lot more popular now since people are discovering it, especially on TikTok. I see a lot of people recommending it. But this series is a completed trilogy and it's got fae, it's got magic, basically everything you look for in a good romance fantasy novel, in my opinion. Like, I mean, a lot of the same tropes are in here, guys, but
Let's be real, we eat them up every time.
I don't know about you. I eat them up every single time. It's not hard to please me when it comes to reading books, let me tell you, especially when it comes to romance. So this series takes place with Arwen, and she's living with her family, and they live in a kingdom that is divided by different kings of each kingdom. There's like 6 or 7, I think, and they're kind of based off stones. So there's like onyx, and then There's Emerald and Peridot. And essentially, she has always felt a little bit different from her family. She always knew that she had some sort of hidden spark of magic, I guess you could say, that wasn't like honed or, worked on. However, she kind of always knew that it was there. Essentially, she gets taken captive to protect her family. And from there, she discovers that she has way more power than she knew. And she starts to fall in love with her captor. Again, guys, again with the captors and the guards.
I swear, it's like
There's a common theme going on here with me. But yeah, her captor is definitely holding secrets from her. Not everything is as it seems. The book is very fast paced, good world building. Honestly, there's not a whole bunch of like spice in this one, I don't think. But the second one definitely has more. I think there's a little bit in this one. I can't honestly remember. It's been a while since I read it. But whenever people ask for fantasy books that are not Fourth Wing or acotar, this is honestly always the first book that I recommend. I definitely think that you guys would enjoy this. Okay, last on my list, but not least. Now, this book I like to consider my hidden gem of all fantasy books, and that is The Umbra King. I have never seen anyone recommend this book ever. I've never seen anything on Twitter. I've never seen anything on TikTok. I don't see people talking about this book, and it's not talked about enough. This is a completed duology, so it's super short, super easy to read. It is in the third person, so if that's something that bothers you, keep in mind that it's a third person book. While I also do prefer books in the first person, it didn't really bother me that much because the story was so fast paced and I kept up with it so easily that like I hardly even noticed it was in the third person. This book kind of reminds me of Crescent City a little bit just because it's more of a contemporary fantasy. It takes place in like a modern day world. There's modern day technology. And it follows the story of this girl, Rory, who had a twin sister who she actually witnessed get brutally murdered when she was younger. Ever since she witnessed that, she kind of grew up to be this like vigilante hero in her city. So essentially, she took it upon herself to go after and people who are just inherently bad, and she decides to them for people. Obviously, you can't just go around killing people, even if it's with a good cause. So she is then sent to Vincula, which is this prison realm, basically guarded by this king who's known as the Umbra King, and he looks after the prison realm. She is sentenced to
500 years.
there, but once she gets there, she finds out that the Umbra King, aka the Lord of the prison realm, is the guy that murdered her sister. So you can imagine what she's feeling when she lays eyes on him and she says, "Oh my God, I have to spend 500 years with this guy." Well, what's gonna happen? I don't know. You'll just have to read it. Guys, when I tell you, I'm serious. This book literally took me by surprise. I never see enough about it, guys. It's so good. No one ever talks about it. And if you're looking for something that's super easy to devour, super quick to read, and just, it's completed, so there's no cliffhangers, read it, guys. This book is chef's kiss. Amazing. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe. I post here weekly and I post on TikTok daily. It's the same username, just Kaitarkins. I really hope you guys enjoyed these recommendations and let me know what you think. If you guys have any other video recommendations, also let me know and I will get right on that for you. Okay, bye guys. See you next time.